Welcome to Understanding Human Anatomy and our discussion of the abdominal wall, Part 3. I left the discussion in the last video by drawing in the rectus abdominis, and I stated that the deep layer of the tendon of the internal oblique muscle and the tendon of transverse abdominis muscles form the deep layer of the rectus sheath lying posterior to the rectus abdominal muscles. The anterior layer of the rectus sheath is going to be formed by the other half of the internal oblique tendon, the superficial half, and also by the tendon of the external oblique. So let's look at the internal oblique here. And down here. And let me color in the tendon forming part of the superficial layer of the rectus sheath. Have it blocked in. I'll move to a bigger you can see that the tendon is completely obscuring the blue of the rectus abdominis. So there we have the superficial layer of the internal oblique tendon. And I'll draw in the linea alba once again, because we keep covering it up. Now, the third muscle layer is the external oblique muscle. As the name implies, the external oblique is the most superficial or the most external of the abdominal muscles, and its fibers run in an oblique direction, and the fibers are roughly perpendicular to the fibers of the internal oblique. So I'm going to use a blue to outline the external oblique here. And again, it's going to have a tendon that runs over the superficial surface of the rectus abdominis muscle. So let me color in the external oblique in blue. Again, we'll do the same job on the right side of the body. And like I did for the transverse abdominis and the internal oblique, I'm going to color in the tendon in a slightly lighter shade of blue in this case. Slightly lighter shade of the color I used for the muscle. Okay, we have that colored in, and I'll go back and again put in the linea alba because it keeps getting covered over. There. And we'll get the line back to where it belongs. This in dark blue is now and now I'll sketch in some lines to show you the direction of the muscle fibers. And the external oblique, when viewed anteriorly like this, the fibers are running at an angle inferiorly and medially. And on the other side, draw them in like so. And you can see that these fibers are roughly perpendicular to the direction of the internal obliques fibers. Now, we'll get some labels in here, and the first one I want to do is just label the external oblique muscle. Here. And then we'll label the external obliques tendon, and that tendon will form part of the superficial layer of the rectus sheath, along with the superficial layer of the internal oblique tendon. Now, another thing I need to emphasize is the inguinal ligament. So I'll emphasize that just by sketching it in down here. And remember, the inguinal ligament is just the inferior border of the external oblique as it runs from the anterior superior iliac spine down to the pubic tubercle. Actually part of the insertion of the external oblique muscle. That will complete our discussion of the muscles forming the abdominal wall. In the next video, I'll draw a section through the abdominal wall, through the obliques and transverse abdominis, to give you a view similar to what I did for the thoracic wall in the intercostal space. And then we'll take a closer look at the rectus sheath. Thank you for your attention.